Well, greetings. Michael DDA here. Thank you for joining me. 40 years is the time period between the end of Genesis and the beginning of Exodus. We have probably spent 3 weeks already, maybe going on the 4th week, but certainly on to the 3rd week. And there's multiple weeks that still have to happen before we're seriously into our time in Egypt. We saw last week here, we did Exodus 8 through 10. And we took 2 chapters to understand what they said in those 3 verses. Let me pull up those 3 verses. We're going to do some of those. It says, now there was a new king in Egypt who did not know Joseph. Talk about a framework, an outline, a chapter summary of what we're seeing in Yasher. And he said to the people, look, the people are the Israel seed. The people of Israel's seed are more and mightier than we. Why did he say that? More and mightier. Do we see anything up until then that would make them think that? No, but it's in Yasher. Let me go to Yasher. This is what inspired what he's saying last week. We briefly went through it, but it took us 2 chapters to do it. Oh, I went to the same thing here. Let's go here. We spent a lot of time talking about Esau's seed, specifically. What was his name? Son of oh my goodness gracious. Let me find it. I gotta have it. Zepho, Ben Eliphaz, Ben Esau. He was the king of Rome, Kittim. Remember, he was down in Africa for a long time, and he ended up fighting the king of Africa. And he did so well because Yehovah helped him. He didn't lose a man. He got a big head. Didn't thank Yehovah for the help that he got. And now he's planning on going to Egypt. That's what he did last week. He got Kittim's seed, his people. Kittim, remember, is Rome. He got Esau's seed. Hadad ben, I forget Hadad's name. Hadad ben Bedad, king of Esau's seed. He got the east seed, and he got Ishmael's seed. Over 1 million men. And they all came to Egypt. Couldn't even count how many men there was. Usually we see 800,000, 600,000. They said it took 3 days journey to see the whole of this mass of people. So I'm saying over 1 million people. And we had 400,000 Egyptians that went to meet him in Egypt. Takmenkas, right outside Egypt. And there was 150 of Israel's seed that went with them. So we got 400,000 Egyptians and 150 of Egypt's seed. Hardly seems even significant, doesn't it? But they made us, I say us, I'm Israel's seed. They made us stay behind. They didn't want us to fight with them. They were concerned that we would fight with our relatives. And they are our relatives. Zepho ben Eliphaz, ben Esau. Remember, Jacob is the brother of Esau. We got Ishmael. We've got the East seed, Keturah, Hagar. All relations of Abraham. They didn't want us to fight with them. But they're coming to kill us. They were mad. Remember, Zepho, he was held captive in Egypt for over 40 years. He and a bunch of his men. From the time Esau was killed at Jacob's burial until must have been when Joseph died. They escaped. But he's held a grudge. Now he's coming to Egypt. They wouldn't let us fight. They made us stay behind, but 400,000 against 1 million people, that's pretty bad odds still. But what happened? They said, help us, Israel. We're being defeated. They'd already lost 200 men. Hardly seems like anything. But they lost 200 men. They're retreating. And what did they do? They left us to fight. They left Israel's seed, 150 men to fight. And we killed 40,000 men. They didn't kill 40,000 men. The Egyptians didn't. Well, the 1,000,000-man army ran away. We chased them to Cush, wherever Cush is at. I don't know where Cush is at. I'd love to know where Cush is at. Don't know. But we chased them to the borderline of Cush. And then came home. And when we came home, we found some of the Egyptians along the road. And we were pissed. We got left behind. We got left 150 men to fight a 1,000,000-man army. What was that? 1 to 6,666.66666 to 1. That's pretty bad. Well, we killed more than, remember I said they lost 180 in the battle with Esau's crew, Katim's crew. And we killed 200. We said, smite, smite, for he is an Ishmaelite, an Edomite, a Katim seed. And they stood over him and slew him, and they knew that he was an Egyptian. Well, the Egyptians were afraid now. They realized we have real power. And that's what generated them saying they are mightier and stronger than we. Well, now they've got to do something about it, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The affliction is about to begin. Remember, this is happening really pretty much after Malal, the new king of Israel. Remember, there was a king of Israel, or a king arose that did not know the Israelites and what they had done for Egypt. And now that king is seeing how powerful we are. He's got to do something. Egypt's afraid. They were afraid of us already. Remember, they didn't want us to fight with them. Or we might go with somebody else, fight against them. Well, we didn't. But let's pick it up here. And it came to pass after these things that all the counselors of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and all the elders of Egypt assembled and came before the king and bowed down to the ground, and they sat before him. I took out the commas and made it sound like there is 3. All the counselors of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and all the Egypt. No, it's Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and all the elders of Egypt. Then it says it right here, the very next verse. The counselors and the elders of Egypt spoke unto the king, saying, behold, Israel's seeds people are greater and mightier than we are. Thou knowest all the evil which they did to us in the road when we returned from the battle. This is what it's coming from. Torah completely redacts all that information. Was it originally in the Torah? I wonder how much of Torah has been redacted. Remember, the conquerors are the ones who write the history. Is it the conquerors the one who edited Torah? Ooh, I want to see what's in the Vatican now that we have some of those old manuscripts coming to life. It'd be interesting. Mightier and greater than we. And thou hast also seen their strong power, for the power is unto them from their fathers. But a few men stood up against a people numerous as the sand and smote them at the edge of the sword, and of themselves not one has fallen. Oh, haven't we seen that over and over? When Jehovah fights for us, we're kept safe, so that they have been numerous. So if they had been numerous, they would have utterly destroyed them. We would have taken out the 1,000,000-man army if we had a few thousand of us. But we only had 150 of us. Now, therefore, give us counsel what to do with them until we gradually destroy them from amongst us, lest they become too numerous for us in the land. They want to get rid of us little by little. Israel's seed is too strong to be killed outright. They just proved it. Well, what can they do? This is their plan. For if Israel's seed should increase in the land, they will become an obstacle to us. And if any war should happen to take place, they, with their great strength, will join our enemy against us and fight against us, destroy us from the land, and we will go away from it. You know what? What does that tell you? It tells you they're afraid of us. Their motive for decreasing Israel's seed is to make it so they don't have to be afraid. What do I have here? I think probably the same thing. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply, and it happen in an event of war that they should join our enemies. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of something. And fear is what's motivating them. Now it says, go to these next 4 verses. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 verses in Torah. Here it is. Therefore they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh supply cities. Pithom. It's actually Pitom, and Ramses. We'll say Pithom and Ramses. That's what we're used to. It says, so. Where is it? Oh, no, maybe that's not it. Where are we at? 11? Oh, I'm in the wrong verse. Let me click on 11 here. Here we are. They called it supply cities. And they built for Pharaoh supply cities. You know, Yasher does not say that. Pithom and Ramses is where the war was fought with this 1,000,000-man army. And Yasher says this, now therefore the king commanded us to fortify the land, to build the cities of Pithom and Ramses, to fortify them for battle. So it wasn't, they're saying build them. It was already there. We'd already seen it in Yasher. And to fortify them for battle. if they should again come against us. I think they're talking about making walls and ways to fight from. I don't know, armaments or fighting behind stuff. That's why they're involved with so much of the bricks. So it goes on. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were in dread of Israel's seed. So the Egyptians, this says so the Egyptians made Israel's seed serve with rigor. Rigor. I thought that was an interesting word. It's kind of what we and how we are living even these days. We serve the governments of this world with rigor. It takes all our energy. For some, they've got 2 and 3 jobs. That's rigorous. I want to go to this verse. This is 34. Actually, I want to go to this. 34, 1 through 6. Listen to what this says. See if this doesn't sound like kind of where we're at today with rigor. And the word of Yehovah came to me. This is Ezekiel, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, I think the shepherds of Israel, we don't even have Israel. We've got a people who somehow believe that the church and the pastors are the shepherds of the people. So I kind of think of this applying to those pastors. Prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, Thus says my master Yehovah to the shepherds. Woe to the shepherds who feed themselves. This is what the pastors of this world do. They're not teaching Yehovah's kingdom. They're teaching ways to feed themselves. They're following their doctrines, their denominations' doctrines. And if they step out of those denominations' doctrines, they get in trouble. They lose their patriarchs who are more interested in feeding themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flocks? You eat the fat and clothe yourselves with wool. You slaughter the fatling, but you do not feed the flock. The weak you have not strengthened, nor have you healed those who are sick, nor bound up the broken, nor brought back what was driven away, nor sought what was lost. But with force and cruelty, you have ruled over them. Force and cruelty, that's the word that we're talking about, rigor. With force and with rigor, you have ruled over them. Look, it's the fracture, severity, breaking up. To sever something is to break it apart. And that's what they want to do, is break us apart. Work us so hard that we can't do anything else. And I think that's what the world is doing to us right now. Let me just finish that thought that we had. So they were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became food for the beasts of the field when they were scattered. My sheep wandered through all the mountains and all the high hills. My sheep, I was the lost sheep. I got kicked out of the church. They didn't want to answer my sincere questions. They wanted to stick with their doctrines and traditions of men. My flocks are scattered all over the whole face of the earth, and there's no one seeking or searching for them. I'm searching and seeking for those men and women who want to learn Yehovah's created purpose for them. Let's go back. Last verse. We said 11, 12, 13, 14. Was it 14 or was it 15? No, it was 14. We're just doing 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 verses. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar, in brick, and all manner of service in the field. All their service in which they made them serve was with rigor. These 4 verses is what we're going to talk about in 2 chapters. Almost 2 chapters. In Yasher today. Let's find out how that worked out. So the king answered the elders of Egypt and said unto them, this is the plan advised against Israel. This is the king's plan. Melel is his name, from which we will not depart. They're going to keep this plan in place for 23 years. Behold, in the land are Pithom and Ramses, cities unfortified against battle. See, they already existed. They're just building the fortifications. It behooves you and us to build them and to fortify them. Maybe we wouldn't do so bad against Zepho and Hadad ben Badad when they come against us again. Now, therefore, go you also and act cunningly towards them, and proclaim a voice in Egypt and in Goshen. Remember, that's where Israel's seed is, in Goshen, at the command of the king, saying, all ye men of Egypt, Goshen, Pathros, and all their inhabitants, the king has commanded us to build Pithom and Ramses, and to fortify them for battle. Who amongst you of all Egypt, Israel's seed, and all the inhabitants of the cities are willing to build with us? Shall each have his wages given to him daily at the king's order. So go you first and do cunningly, and gather yourselves and come to Pithom, and Ramses to build. You got to remember when the king, after the last brother died, remember it was Levi. He died in our 93rd year in Egypt. And then Egypt, when this king came, took all of our land and our houses away from us. So we have some needs. Maybe that's why some of us were more inclined to work for Pharaoh. Seemed like a good idea. And whilst you are building, cause a proclamation of this kind to be made throughout Egypt every day at the command of the king. And when some of Israel's seed shall come to build with you, you shall give them their wages daily for a few days. And after they have built with you for their daily hire, drag yourselves away from them daily, one by one in secret. And then you shall rise up and become their taskmasters and officers. Does this sound like a conspiracy that Pharaoh is making with the elders of Egypt? I think so. And you shall leave them afterwards to build without wages. And should they refuse, then force them with all your might to build. And if you will do this, it will be well with us to strengthen our land against Israel's seed. For on account of the fatigue of building and the work, Israel's seed will decrease. Why? Because you will deprive them of their women day by day. They can't take the time to make the babies, they think. And all the elders of Egypt heard the counsel of the king. And the counsel seemed good in their eyes, and in the eyes of Pharaoh's servants, and the eyes of all Egypt. And they did according to the word of the king's word. And all the servants went away from the king, and they caused a proclamation to be made in Egypt, in Pancas, and in Goshen, and all the cities which surrounded Egypt, saying, you have seen what Esau and Ishmael's seed did unto us, who came to war against us and wished to destroy us. Now, therefore, they're putting the people in fear. We don't want that to happen again. Now, therefore, the king commanded us to fortify the land, to build the cities, Pithom and Ramses, and to fortify them for battle if they should come against us. Whoever of you from all Egypt or from Israel's seed will come to build with us, he shall have his daily wage given by the king at his command, as his command is unto us. So it doesn't appear that it was a requirement. It was an opportunity, it seemed, but it was a false opportunity to lull us to sleep. And when Egypt and all Israel's seed heard all that Pharaoh's servants had spoken, there came from the Egyptians and Israel's seed to build with the servants of Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses. But none of Levi's seed came with their brethren to build. Isn't that interesting? None of Levi's seed came to build. Do you remember Levi? He was the one who got the priestly blessing when it was taken from the firstborn brother. What was the firstborn brother's name? I forgot. And the kingly blessing was given to Judah. The priestly blessing was given to Levi. And the double blessing was given to Joseph, which is why Manasseh and Ephraim are now a part of Israel. Equal brothers. And all the servants of Pharaoh and his princes came at first with deceit to build with all Israel as daily hired laborers. And they gave to Israel their daily hire at the beginning. And the servants of Pharaoh built with all Israel and were employed in that work with Israel for a month. At the end of the month, all the servants of Pharaoh began to withdraw secretly from Israel's people daily. And Israel went on with the work at that time. But they then received their daily hire. They were still getting their daily hire. This is the story of the frog being boiled alive little by little in the water. It's happening to us in the United States right now as we lose our freedoms daily. Because some of the men of Egypt were yet carrying on the work with Israel at that time. Therefore, the Egyptians gave Israel their hire in those days in order that they, the Egyptians, their fellow workmen, might also take the pay for their labor. And at the end of a year and 4 months, it took a while to do it. All the Egyptians had withdrawn from Israel's seed. So that Israel's seed were left alone, engaged in the work. And after all the Egyptians had withdrawn from Israel's seed, they returned and became oppressors and officers over them. And some of them stood over Israel's seed as taskmasters. Remember, making them serve with rigor to receive from them all that they gave them for the pay of their labor. Look at that. To receive from them all that they gave them sounds like the Egyptians were taking what Israel's seed should have gotten for themselves. See if you think I'm right, because this was kind of a confusing sentence for me. And the Egyptians did in that manner to Israel's seed day by day in order to afflict them in their work. All Israel's seed were alone engaged in the labor. And the Egyptians refrained from giving any pay to Israel's seed from this time forward. And some of the men of Israel refused to work on account of the wages not being given to them. Well, that's no surprise. And the extractors and the servants of Pharaoh oppressed them and smote them with heavy blows and made them return by force to labor with their brethren. Thus did all the Egyptians to Israel's seed all the days. And all Israel's seed were greatly afraid of the Egyptians in this manner. Why were they afraid of the Egyptians? I don't understand this. We took on a 1,000,000-man army. We can't fight these people that are oppressing us. Have we lost our will to stand up for ourselves? Is that what happens when we live in a world like this? And Israel's seed was greatly afraid of the Egyptians in this manner, and all Israel's seed returned and worked alone without pay. And Israel's seed built Pithom and Ramses, and all Israel's seed did the work, some making bricks, some building, and Israel's seed built and fortified all the land of Egypt and its walls. And Israel's seed were engaged in the work for many years until the time came when Jehovah remembered them and brought them out of Egypt. Remember, this is starting in our 102nd year. We're not leaving until 210, our 210th year in Egypt. This is going to go on a long time, but look what the next verse says. But Levi's seed were not employed in the work with the brethren of Israel. It doesn't sound right. From the beginning unto the day of their going forth from Egypt, they never worked for the Egyptians. Was it difficult for them when the rest of their brethren got these jobs and they had to live without that income to support their families? I wonder. I'm guessing that it was. Wayne, this is kind of what I was talking about today. Was this difficult for them not being a part of this work? And Levi's seed were not employed in the work with their brethren Israel from the beginning unto the day of their going forth from Egypt. For Levi's seed knew that the Egyptians had spoken all these words with deceit to the Israelites. Sounds like they're conspiracy theorists, doesn't it? We know what they're doing. We're not going to work for them. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a conspiracy theorist. Therefore, Levi's seed refrained from approaching to work with their brethren. And the Egyptians did not direct their attention to make Levi's seed work afterwards, since they had not been with their brethren at the beginning. Therefore, the Egyptians left them alone. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Sounds like something for us to keep in mind. Are we their slaves now? Then we will probably continue to be their slaves in the future, or we will suffer the short-term consequences. Let's stop being their slaves now and start being Jehovah's bondservants. Yes, Wayne, this is what I was thinking about this morning when I was talking with you. We do it now. We do it later. I drive without a state driver's license. And my feeling is, of course, with the state driver's license, you're not under laws, you're under legalities. But if you have a state driver's license, then you're probably going to get a national driver's license. And if you got a national driver's, you're probably going to get a world license or earth license. They'll probably call it the world license. But it just goes on and on. Sometimes you got to say, enough is enough. I'm not going that direction. And that's what Levi did. And they were left alone because of it. And the hands of Egypt men were directed with continued severity. There's that word severity against Israel's seed in the work. And the Egyptians made Israel's seed work with rigor. Look at rigor is what we said. Severity was with rigor. I think that's interesting. Getting worse. So the Egyptians made Israel's seed serve with rigor. And the Egyptians embittered the lives of Israel's seed with hard work in mortar and bricks and all manner of work of the field, almost exact words from Torah. And Israel's seed called Malal, the king of Egypt, Merer, king of Egypt. I have no idea what Merer means, couldn't figure it out. Because in his days, the Egyptians had embittered their lives with all manner of work. Remember, this man, Malal, is going to rule 93 years, from 102nd year in Egypt to our 195th year in Egypt. And there's going to be one more king. Wait till you see what that king is like. Who's going to be the king that Moses dealt with. This king kept us embittered all our lives. And all the work wherein the Egyptians made Israel's seed labor, they exacted with rigor in order to afflict Israel's seed. But the more they afflicted them, the more they increased and grew. It's not working. The whole point is to make them shrink. And it's not working. And the Egyptians were grieved because of Israel's seed. The more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were in dread of Israel's seed. What are we going to do? At that time, remember, we're going back and forth between what's going on in Egypt and what's going on in the rest of the world. Now we're going back and learning a little bit more about Hadad ben Bedad. He's dying. And Samlah from Misraka, from the country of the East Seed, Misraka is a city in the East Seed, reigned in his place. In the 13th year of the reign of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So this would be, remember, he started reigning at 102. So this would be 115. Oh, which is the 125th. How does that work? 13 plus 102 is 115. This is the 25th year of the Israelites going on in Egypt. I thought he took over when he was 102nd year. Maybe I have that wrong. Or maybe the numbers just don't quite agree. Which was 125th year of the Israelites going down to Egypt. Samlah had reigned over Edom 18 years. So if he started, see, that says the 13th year. Oh, 13th year of the reign of Pharaoh. Okay, that makes more sense. No, that doesn't make sense. because it seems like he started at 102nd year. 102nd year, and now it's our 125th year. Seems like that would be 23 years that he's reigned. And this plan that he's created has been going on with us to afflict us. And when he reigned, he drew forth his hosts. No. And in the 13th year of the reign of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, which is the 125th year of the Israelites going down to Egypt, Samlah had reigned over Edom 18 years. And when he reigned, he's reigned now for 18 years. And when he reigned, he drew forth his host to go fight against Zepho, Ben Eliphaz, and Katim's seed, because they had made war against Angias, king of Africa. And they destroyed his whole army. Remember, they did. They destroyed Angias' army. They just totally wiped him out. But why would Esau's seed go fight Zepho, who was also part of Esau's seed? Well, that's what the next verse is about. But he did not engage with him, for Esau's seed prevented him, saying, he's their brother. So Samlah listened to the voice of Esau's seed and turned back, and with all his forces to the land of Edom, and did not proceed to fight against Zepho, Ben Eliphaz. Think about this. We know where Esau's seed is, in what was called Seir, which is now called Edom. To get to Rome, he's got to go all the way up and around, unless he's going to do it in ships. Doesn't sound like he's doing it in ships. Sounds like they're taking a journey. That's a long ways to take an army. You got to think, how did this work? How does this work? And Pharaoh, king of Egypt, heard this thing, saying, Samlah, king of Edom, has resolved to fight against Katim's seed, and afterwards he will come and fight against Egypt. So now they're concerned that they're coming after Egypt, and they haven't decreased our workforce. And when the Egyptians heard this matter, they increased the labor of Israel's seed, lest the Israelites should do unto them as they did unto them in their war with Esau's seed in the days of Hadad. They remember. We killed them on the road. We only killed 200 of them, but we let them know we were not pleased that they left us to fight. And the Egyptians said unto Israel's seed, hasten and do your work, and finish your task and strengthen the land, lest Esau's seed, your brethren, should come and fight against us. For on your account will they come against us. Maybe, maybe not. And Israel's seed did the work of Egypt's men day by day, and the Egyptians afflicted Israel's seed in order to lessen them in the land. But as the Egyptians increased the labor upon Israel's seed, so did Israel's seed increase and multiply, and all Egypt was filled with Israel's seed. And in the 125th year again, saying exactly the same thing. And in the 125th year of Israel going down to Egypt, all the Egyptians saw that their counsel did not succeed against Israel. Now, this has been 23 years that this has been going on. But they increased and grew, and the land of Egypt and the land of Goshen were filled with Israel's seed. But this is happening right now all around the world. Israel's seed is beginning to grow. And all the elders of Egypt and its wise men came before the king and bowed down to him and sat before him. And all the elders of Egypt and all the wise men therefore said unto the king, may the king live forever. Thou didst counsel us the counsel against Israel's seed, and we did unto them according to the word of the king. But in proportion to the increase of their labor, so they increased and grown in the land. And behold, the whole country is filled with them. It's not working. Now therefore, our master and king, the eyes of all Egypt are upon thee to give them advice with thy wisdom, by which they may prevail over Israel to destroy them or to diminish them in the land. And the king answered them, saying, give you counsel in this matter. You tell me what to do, that we may know what to do with them. And an officer, one of the king's counselors, whose name was Job, from Mesopotamia, in the land of Uz, answered the king, saying, if it pleases the king, let him hear the counsel of his servants. And the king said unto him, speak. And Job spoke before the king, the princes, and before the elders of Egypt, Egypt's elders, saying, behold, the king's counselors, which he advised formerly respecting the labor of Israel's seed is very good. And you must not remove from them that labor forever. But that was the king's counsel. The king's counsel, remember, it was the king who said, we're going to do this. But this is the advice, counsel, by which you may lessen them, if it seems good to the king to afflict them. Behold, we have feared war for a long time. Did I miss? Yeah, we were supposed to read 15 through 21. Let me read 15 through 21, and then we're going to come back to where we left off, okay? Here's 15 through 21. Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, whom the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the duties of the midwives for the Hebrew women, and see them at their birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall kill him. But if it is a daughter, then you shall let him live. But the midwives, look at this, but the midwives feared the Elohim, Elohim, one of the few places where Elohim, one of 35 places in Torah where it actually says Elohim, and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the Yeladim, the young men, alive. So the king of Egypt called the midwives and said to them, why have you done this thing and saved the male children, the Yeladim, Yeladim alive? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them. Therefore Elohim therefore Elohim, you know what? I'll bet you that is the Elohim too. Let's find out, just out of curiosity. I don't think it will be. No, it just says Elohim. Therefore Elohim dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew mightily. And so it was, because the midwives feared the Elohim, that he provided households for them. We're not going to read the last verse just yet. So we were down here. Behold, the king's counsel, which he has advised formerly, respecting Israel's seed's labor, is very good, and you must not remove from them that labor forever. Keep afflicting them. But this is the advice, counsel, by which you may lessen them, if it seems good to the king to afflict them. So much more is going on. It's not just all of a sudden he decides, oh, well, I'm going to call Shiphrah and Puah. and we're going to try this. No, there's a process by which this is going on. Behold, we have feared war for a long time. That's what it's all about, fearing war. They fear. And we said, when Israel becomes fruitful in the land, they will drive us from the land if a war should take place. Yeah, instead of driving them out, they're worried that Israel's going to drive them out of their own land. And, I'm sorry, if it please the king, let a royal decree go forth. This is still Job talking. Let a royal decree go forth, and let it be written in the law of Egypt, which shall be revoked, that every male child born of the Israelites, every Yeladim born of the Israelites, his blood shall be spilled on the ground. Notice, they are not worried about Israel's women. Women don't fight. They can control the women. And by your doing this, when all Israel's Yeladim shall have died, the evil of their wars will cease. Could this be why the World Health New World Order wants to reduce the population by 90%? They can have something a little bit more controllable? I think so. Let the king do so and send for all the Hebrew midwives. I'm a conspiracy theorist, don't you know? And order them in this matter to execute it. Now they want the midwives. They want the midwives to do this. The Hebrew midwives, in order that in this matter they may execute it. Oh, yeah, we're still talking about Shiphrah and Puah. So this pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Job. And the king sent for the Hebrew midwives to be called, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. So see, there was a process by which these gals came before the king. He didn't just do it. Somebody gave him an idea on how to do this. It was a conspiracy. And the midwives came before the king and stood in his presence. And the king said unto them, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, you shall keep her alive. But if you will not do this thing, then I will burn you up and all your houses with fire. So that order came with a threat. These women were under duress to do what the king wanted them to do that they didn't want to do. It says, but the midwives feared. They just said in here, Elohim. We know it said in Torah that they feared the Elohim, Elohim, and did not hearken to the king of Egypt, nor to his words. And when the Hebrew women brought forth to the midwife son or daughter, then did the midwife do all that was necessary to the child and let it live. Thus did the midwives all the days. So they flat out lied to the king. Oh, well, they delivered before we're there. But the midwives feared the Elohim. Yeah. The fear of man brings a snare, but whoever trusts in Yehovah shall be saved. Do not say a conspiracy concerning all that the people call a conspiracy, nor be afraid of their threats, nor be troubled. Yehovah of hosts, him you shall hallow. Let him be your fear. Let him be your dread. Good advice. And this thing was told to the king, and he sent and called for the midwives and said to them, why have you done this thing to have saved the Yeladim alive? And the midwives answered and spoke together before the king, saying, let not the king think that the Hebrew women are like the Egyptian women, for all Israel's seed are hale. Hale. I had to look that up. Sound, entire, healthy, robust, unimpaired. And before the midwife comes to them, they are delivered. Light our pans on fire. But they did it to preserve the Yeladim alive. And as for us, thy maidservants, for many days no Hebrew woman has brought forth upon us. For all the Hebrew women are their own midwives, because they are all Ham. And Pharaoh heard their words and believed them in this matter. And the midwives went away from the king. And Elohim dealt well with them. He dealt well with the midwives in Torah. It says he gave them homes. And the people multiplied and waxed exceedingly. Yeah, here it says, and so it was, because the midwives feared the Elohim, that he provided households for them. This happened in our 125th year in Egypt. We still have 85 more years to go. Oh my goodness, how long have we been on here? 55 minutes. I'm going to stop here rather than go to the next chapter. Next chapter, we're going to have, in fact, I'm going to call the next one, the male child is born. There's a male child that is going to be prophesied, that's going to save Israel from the Egyptians. We're going to see it next week. It's all very interesting. All right. Love you tons. Thank you for joining me today. And we'll see you again.